joining me today on today's episode of Extraordinary Women is Miss Kelsey Ayers. Is
Yes,
that correct? Thank you.
yes.
And she comes from Long Beach, California. Kelsey, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. So tell me a little bit about yourself, who you are, and
Yeah,
what you do.
yes, absolutely. My name is Kelsey, and I am born and raised in Wisconsin, actually. I moved out to California about 6 years ago now. Kind of just, was doing whatever, went to college, was kind of just going with the flow, never really had a ton of direction. And then I moved here and everything kind of changed for me. Everything just kind of started clicking. And I met my husband and I was introduced to CBD, and now I am the founder of Sweat CBD. I started it about 2 years ago and never expected it would be what it is now. But here I am.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So, before we get into talking about CBD in a little bit, what was your transition like coming out of Wisconsin into here? Because I'm from like a small town in Hampton,
Okay, yeah,
Pennsylvania, and I know for me, when I moved out here, it was really different. It was a bit of
yeah.
an adjustment. So, what was your transition adjustment like?
Oh, yeah, it was not easy at all. So I actually moved out here to live with my ex-boyfriend, and like side note, kind of knew we weren't going to be together, but just like really wanted to move to California. So
Mhm.
I moved out here. We didn't stay together long, and then I was kind of out on my own. I was a server, a nanny, and an event coordinator all at once. So I was working from 4 o'clock in the morning, usually until 1 a.m., 6 days a week for the first about 3 years. And I literally was living in someone's like master closet. It didn't even have a window. So, and still paying like $700 a month for rent, coming from small town Wisconsin, where like I had a massive room and I paid $250 a month. So that adjustment was really big for me. And then one day it just kind of like hit me. I'm like, why did I move to California? If I'm going to work around the clock, I don't even get to enjoy the beautiful beaches and people and food and all the things of this culture if I'm just working every day. So after a while, it just started like clicking. But yeah, it was not easy to adjust for me. I obviously made it work. It's also, and I'm sure you can kind of relate, a big adjustment just with people. Like in a bigger city, metropolitan area like this, people aren't as necessarily like open to making new friends or open to accepting in new people because they have their people. Where coming from a small town, it's like I go to the grocery store and they're like, "Oh, hi, Kelsey, hi." You
It's
can't
so
go
different.
without no, yeah, and you can't know without or go anywhere without somebody knowing you. So that was a huge adjustment. The finances was a huge adjustment, and then just realizing that you're kind of like a small fish in a big pond. That was hard for me to deal with at first. But I mean, there's so many perks too. But yeah, there was a lot of struggles at the beginning for sure.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. That's how it was for me when I first moved out here. I mean, I barely knew anyone.
Yeah.
The only person I really knew was, of course, my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, but he
Yeah.
actually just gotten orders to Japan. So I was about to be out
Oh,
here by myself for an entire year. But, I totally relate to that whole thing of like working around the clock, living in like a master bedroom, and just
yeah.
not being able to really have time to enjoy
Right.
beautiful sunny California. So I hear you, girl. I totally hear you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely weird. It's been a journey, but I'm sure you can relate. It also makes like, where you are now just so much more
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yes, it molds you into
Yeah,
an independent individual. It makes
right.
you kind of stronger to be okay to be on your own
Right.
and to grow. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's definitely what happened with me. So I totally relate to that. So tell me a little bit about Sweat CBD. We talked a little bit
Yeah,
prior to this about it. So
right.
tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, so let me just give you kind of a little backstory first on how I started the company and why I started the company, because that's really the most important part and kind of helps you understand like what Sweat CBD is. I struggled with anxiety for almost my entire life, like really debilitating anxiety. I always was able to manage it because of things like sports and just being a really involved person. When I got to college and all that was kind of taken away from me, that anxiety started turning into other things and really unhealthy things, unhealthy habits. I actually developed an eating disorder because I was just so anxious in my head. I got down to like 83 pounds and was just really, really mentally and physically ill. That really kind of destroyed me for a few years, and it took a long time to rebuild myself after that. Then I started using things like healthy eating and exercise and really got into fitness and nutrition in order to control the anxiety, but it was always still kind of there. So it never really fully went away. Um, After a while, like I was taking anxiety medication too, but it makes you feel very zombie like. It makes you kind of numb. And I am a big personality. I'm somebody that like feels hard. I love hard. I love to talk. And it took all that away from me. Um, so I was really in search of something that was holistic or alternative, and I knew it was out there. But again, coming from small town Wisconsin, we don't really like look for those kinds of things. We just take the medicine that we're told to take.
Mm.
And once my husband is actually in the cannabis industry, and so he suggested to me that I try CBD. And literally on the first day that I tried it, it was like this release of pressure off my chest that I had never felt before. It was just an instant just relief. I could take a deep breath, like for the first time in like years and years and years. And I knew it. I had always wanted to be an entrepreneur because I just saw all that freedom there. And that is like everything to me. The freedom and time is priceless to me. And so I knew I wanted to do that, but I never knew what it was going to be because I never found anything that I was like so passionate about that I could make it a career. I kind of truly like morally sell something to people that I love. And when I tried this, I was like, this is it. This is it. I can share this with everyone and I will be happy doing so and I will feel good about it. And I know I have something, that I'm super passionate about here. So we took some time to create the product. Because of my husband, actually had really good connections to like the best farms in the country, a very trustworthy manufacturer here in LA that I could work with like hand in hand to develop the kind of product that I would want to take myself and give to my friends and family. And it took us a while to do that. And then the idea of sweat came to me because like I said, my background was in the health and fitness industry. And I kind of was like, let's mesh my two worlds here. Let's bring it in and focus on the benefits it has for fitness and let people realize all the other benefits it has by themselves. So after that, it was just, kind of slow selling to friends and family. And then it just kind of started taking off. People started really, really loving the product. And I started adding more products in. And here I am with, we all went all the way up to 17 products at one point. We're back down to our core. I think it's 6 products, which I'm very happy with. I'd rather have a really consistent, small inventory than just a bunch of things that are really hard to manage. And yeah, at this point, we have grown like so substantially and are in about 150 retail locations across the country and have completely transformed our e-commerce business. So it's been a journey, but it is, like I said, the most rewarding thing ever.
Like, wow, going back to, um, the anxiety and the eating disorder, like, just the mental health part of it all. How would you say that, when you moved off of like, medication and you started to try the CBD, how would you say it really improved your mental health? Like I know you said you went
Yeah,
into nutrition and healthy eating and working out,
right.
but how did you feel emotionally and
Yeah,
mentally?
that's a really, really good question. So I don't know if you've ever taken anxiety medication or any sort of medication like that before, but it's very numbing. So it kind of just doesn't let you feel. And like I said, I'm somebody that like I love hard, I feel hard, I do things really intensely. And so for me, all of that was kind of gone. It also gave me this kind of fog over my eyes and my brain. And I never, the way that I always explain it to people is I remember being in college and all of my friends saying, I have, this is what I'm going to do for my career. I have this dream. I'm going to do this by the time I'm 30. Like, and I never had that. And I thought something was wrong with me because I could never really see past tomorrow. And so I was living for today, which is a great thing, but not in the sense that like I couldn't see the future. I was just in survival mode. Like, and
Mhm.
so it led me into like partying a lot and doing like a lot of things that I just would never normally do, I don't think, because I was just kind of in that like numbing state, and nothing ever felt like real to me or tangible. Like I would see, like I said, my friends having these big dreams and I just never had them. So it was very numbing. So when I found CBD actually and was able to, it took a while to get those things out of my system after having taken them so long. But on the first day of taking CBD, I stopped taking my anxiety medication and I have not taken a single one since. So in that moment though, like I knew I had found the change I needed, but it took a little bit of time for me to really feel it. And then after that, my mind just became clear. I became focused for the first time in my life, and I could actually like see things. And then that was the reason that I was able to start this entrepreneurial journey, is because I could finally see to the next day, and I didn't realize how many like big goals and aspirations I had inside of me until that point.
Yeah. Last week, I just had an interview with a couple friends of mine back from my hometown, and one of the things we were talking about was, um, women's mental health today.
Yeah.
And one of the things we were talking about was how we feel like our mental health became a little bit at stake, for different reasons. Like, one of theirs was, they just never really felt connected to a certain group of people. They always felt like the outsider. Then the other person would say, that they just felt like they felt pressure from certain family members to be a certain
Yeah.
type of woman. And for me, my mental health, I feel like it kind of stems from one, being a military wife,
Yep.
constantly, having to adjust to my husband leaving and then coming and going, and then other things, just kind of taking on too many things at once, more
Right.
than what I can handle. So, what would you say, for you personally? Where did your anxiety and your mental health really stem from?
That's really interesting. Well, first of all, I do feel like as women, we are just expected to wear like every single hat, and we're expected to be everything all in one. You're supposed to be beautiful and successful and smart and funny and all of this, and it's like, okay, it's really hard for a lot of people to grasp, or to be okay with just not being all of those things, or maybe just understanding that you are, but maybe just not to everybody. So that is just that's, I feel like, a big strong point where a lot of people's mental health come into like become compromised, for just across the board. But for me, I think honestly that it was really genetic for me. Like I don't ever want to blame that on like my dad's side of the family, but like having anxiety is very very genetic in our family. So I remember when I was little, my dad actually, we thought he was having a heart attack like multiple times, and he'd get taken out of the house on a stretcher by the ambulance because he was just having a really intense panic attack. So I think it was almost ingrained in me when I was really young too, like you have anxiety, so just be careful. Like if this is what anxiety feels like. And I was kind of preconditioned to it. And while I do like really truly believe it is genetic and it was passed down to me, I think a lot of it was like my mental conditioning. Um, and then it just was something that was in the back of my mind. So I would always think about things like much further than everybody else. So if somebody else like had surface level stress, that kind of thing would send me into like a full mental spiral. So I believe it was kind of the combination of the two, like truly having it genetically and then also being like conditioned to and told like you have anxiety.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing for me as well. I mean, I know my mom, and her side of family, anxiety and depression runs on her side, and so I knew for me, especially when I like a little bit when I got older, like even after college, I noticed, that I would be a little bit like all over the place. I would, think too much, think too far, and that would kind of drive me to have a lot of anxiety. But I never really understood what it
What
was
it was. Yeah.
until I really had to sit down and actually, I can being open about this now. I mean, I actually had to go to counseling, I had to go to therapy,
Yeah.
and I had to talk to someone like, is this what this is, or am I just a crazy person? That's the other thing.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
I think you know, when we today, I feel like in society, we don't talk enough about mental health.
I agree.
And I think it has such a negative connotation to it with society because every time, it pops up, it's like, oh, something's wrong with me. And it's
Right.
like, mental health, it does nothing is wrong with you.
Right.
It's not like you are a crazy person. No, like you just need help balancing your stress and your
Exactly.
anxiety. So
Exactly.
I know like that's what it was for me. I had to learn how to balance it. And, it's partially why one of the reasons I created this podcast, because I feel like, with the women that I have come across in my life from college all the way up till now, and even in the business that I'm in now, I feel like they've kind of helped inspire me
Yeah.
to become more balanced. And I wanted to pass that on to other women. Like I wanted other women to feel inspired by that. And, I'm hoping
Absolutely.
that there's a woman out there who sees you and they're like, wow, Kelsey's really inspiring. Like, I mean, I'm just like Kelsey. So I hope,
Yeah.
the woman who sees this episode will feel that from you.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, like this is something that for me it's I wouldn't say it's new, but it's relatively fresh for me to kind of like speak about these things because before it was always like I was the tough girl, like I always just had this like kind of like tomboyish like demeanor about me, and so I never really thought it was like in my character to talk about my feelings.
Yeah.
And it just clicked with me like maybe about a year ago kind of that I my message like could potentially help or be the person or be the message that I needed so badly, like, 4 or 5 years ago. Like, I
Right.
needed that so bad. I needed someone to just like relate to or somebody to talk to. And I probably wouldn't have put myself through years and years of like mental and physical pain.
Mhm.
Um, it, it, it's literally as simple as me just talking about it, and I don't even have to have a response from somebody to know that that message is helping somebody because I know it would have for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of your message and going back to Sweat CBD now, so what is your mission? Like, what is the end goal? And what products do you guys have? Like I've seen,
Yeah.
you got the Sweat CBD oil, you have the gummies, you guys have a variety of
Yeah.
products. So what is your company's mission?
Yeah, so for the first, little time, like a little chunk of time, like I said, I was really just interested in like having this be kind of like a side thing where I would sell to my friends and my family. And then I started getting this feedback from people like, this is the best CBD products I have ever had. This is changing my life. I mean, I've had messages that have brought me to tears, people saying like, I am off my antidepressants. I can finally see again. Like everything is making sense. Thank you so much for putting this product out into the world. And so that's my mission right now is I don't have the desire or need for it to be like this, you know, brand that's sold at Target. Like that's not really where I want to go with it. I don't want to lose that customer connection. But my mission is to be able to just get a product that is safe and organic and I know is, it's third party lab tested so I can see every time that we produce a new batch that exactly what it is and where it's coming from, and I can feel good about getting this into the hands of as many people as I possibly can and being an aid to someone who was, in my position to step away from the harmful medications,
Yeah.
motivate yourself to get back into your fitness routine and start feeling good about yourself. Get good sleep at night, which will totally expand your thinking for the next day. I just I don't want to lose the customer connection. So my mission is truly just to get this to as many people as I possibly can in whatever form I can.
Yeah, and I really like that about you too. I like how, this really was just like something you want to help people.
Yeah.
You want to help people who are suffering from anxiety and, other depressions and everything because, that's something that you went through. So
Right.
I like how that's really your motivation. That's really where it comes from. So
Right.
what would you say is one of the biggest challenges
Yeah.
you know, and your branding, your marketing, and just What would you say is your biggest challenge in just being your own boss and running your own business in general?
Yeah, yeah. Where do I start? There's a lot. There's a lot of challenges, and the funny thing is like you always think like when you get to that next step, like oh that challenge will go away, but it's actually you're just gonna have another one, if not more. So it's an ongoing thing, and you just have to kind of like come to understand that and accept that and be thankful for that that you're undergoing new challenges all the time because you're growing. But at the beginning, I didn't know how to start a business. I had zero knowledge of how to start a business. I literally Googled like how to start a business. So went down the checklist, made sure I had all of my, federal regulations as to creating a business. That was like, step number one. And then after that, it was a lot. Again, it was a lot of trial and error. I did so much pounding the pavement, emailing. I sent out, I can't even tell you how many emails I sent out trying to just make connections with people, get my product into stores, and I had no idea. And I also said yes to a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have, and spent a lot more money in places that I didn't need to spend than I should have. I just didn't know. And I can't be mad at that because I mean, it's again, it's trial and error. It's how you learn, unless you have somebody holding your hand through it. But I just don't ever feel like you're going to evolve like within you if you have that. Your business might grow really fast, but like, what do you want for yourself more than that? So the challenges will never stop. There's always new challenges. Just being a 26-year-old female in a room of, 40 to 60-year-old men trying to pitch my product, that's a challenge. That's scary as hell. Like
Yeah.
things like that. And just CBD as a whole, like it's a very like new, fresh thing. So the regulations are changing all the time. Just for example, in January, there's going to be new CBD regulations that um, they make us have to do our formulation a certain way. We have to take out certain things. We have to do like a triple filtration process, and it's going to be a lot more costly and a lot more timely. So things like that, you just have to kind of go with the flow and understand that when you mess up or you don't know what you're doing, you're going to learn, you're going to get through it, but there's always going to be new challenges.
So I know you said you started this about 2 years ago, so
Yeah.
fairly recently, but
Yeah.
where do you see this going in the next 5 years?
Yeah.
Where would you like Sweat CBD to be in the next 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, great question. Okay, I was actually just talking about this at breakfast with my husband this morning. So I think that I truly don't think or really see Sweat CBD being something like I mentioned earlier that's on the shelf at Walmart and Target and all these big box retailers. It's what people don't understand is that looks like you made it, but it's a lot of work for very little back. And if you are a multi-million dollar company that has funds and funds and funds and people to work for you and all of that to, continue to keep that going, that's great. But for someone like me who literally I do everything in my business, that's not really what I see for this. I see it being a really like extensive e-commerce business where I am still being able to connect with all of my customers. Yes, I want to be able to bring on a packaging team, a shipping team, somebody to do marketing because that's not my zone of genius. I would rather have somebody come in and help me with those things. So I want to expand my team, but I really would love to keep it e-commerce and in 5 years, hopefully sell it to somebody who could do the next step with it. So I want to grow it to a place where it's desirable to somebody else
Mhm.
and move on to my next project and let somebody else, put it in the hands of even more people.
Yeah, and e-commerce too is becoming more and more um it's it's becoming more popular
More
because
regular.
and
Yeah.
regular, and especially now today, with the COVID-19,
Right.
nobody's really going out
Yeah.
anymore. The places are closed. So that's definitely a good route to go. I mean, I think that's a really good plan. I think it's going to go very far,
Oh,
and
thank you
I
so much for saying that.
yes, I definitely think it's going to go very far. You seem very, you seem like a visionary, and you also seem very ambitious too, and I like that. So,
Thank you.
my question with that is, you know, is it important for women to be ambitious? And if, for the women who are told they're too ambitious, I've been told I've been too ambitious. Um, what is your response to that? Like what advice do you have for women who are told they're too ambitious or they're doing too much, and how do you respond to that?
That's awesome. That's an awesome question. Okay, so here's how I picture it. I remember myself 4 years ago, and I was working and I was making good money working, but I never once came home from work and felt fulfilled. I never felt like even a great paycheck. It never filled me up. I always was just going in the motions and just kind of like doing what I thought life was. I thought it was you clock in and you clock out and you go home and you have fun on the weekends and that's it. But I was never fulfilled. I never had that gratification. So I was looking for it elsewhere. I was, looking for it as weekend fun or, being the best this or being the best that all never fulfilled me. Once I started doing this, every time that I was able to overcome one of those barriers, I was completely filled to the top in a way that I had never felt before. It was like the ultimate gratification. And now I am so addicted to that feeling. Like I don't ever want that to stop. So, right when I feel myself slowing down, I put a new challenge in front of myself, whether that be like personally in my personal growth and development, whether that be in my business, or whether that be taking on a new project or just anything, because I want something to work up to feel that feeling of like, you did it.
Mm.
That is irreplaceable. Even if you are a woman who is in a situation that your husband makes a lot of money and you could live comfortably and you could stay home, and don't get me wrong, being a stay-at-home mom is like the most one of the most notable things that you can do. It's a beautiful thing, but I think one day your kids are going to be grown. I think there always needs to be something for you. um I know that I think my mom is someone who feels like that. I think she, was a stay-at-home mom and she did her thing, which she was the best, but now her kids are all off and gone and she is bored. Like I think keeping yourself accountable to keep growing as a person is priceless. I think there's nothing that is ever going to fulfill you like you can.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. And, you know, that key word, fulfill, that is
Yeah,
very big for many people, but I feel like, a lot of women too.
right.
We tend to search for that fulfillment or that purpose. And I know, like, for me, I think I'm still continuing to search for it, but I feel like I found it right now, with this podcast.
Right,
I
right.
feel fulfilled when I talk to a empowering woman. But what advice do you have for women who are still searching, young women? Let's say even right now, like, we're in our 20s,
Yeah,
girls who are teenagers about to hit their early 20s.
yeah.
What advice do you have for like those young girls on how to find that fulfillment?
Okay, so I think one of the biggest mistakes that I made actually was to be waiting for this big, grand, like, this is your ultimate goal. This is it. Here's your forever. And I
Yeah.
think I waited and I waited and I thought something was just gonna like plop into my lap when I turned, like, you said an age, like, oh, when I'm 27, I'm gonna have like my forever career. And it's just gonna be right there. But
Yeah.
what I learned, and especially learned this through business as well, is by waiting for those things, they're never going to come. You sometimes have to do something that will lead you to the next thing. So, starting Sweat CBD, like, do I think this is going to be my forever and ever? Absolutely not. But right now, this is my thing, and I am fully dedicated to this thing. And this thing has now opened up so many more doors for me that if I just decided today, or somebody just said, hey, I'm taking Sweat CBD away from you, like, it's done. I have so many more options now because of the grounds that I've laid for myself with this business. I have built a business from scratch, and that is, you know, that is a great resume to have.
Yeah.
There's so many connections I've made through building this business, like even in instances like this, being able to do podcasts and be my own brand, things like that. So don't wait. That would be my biggest advice. Just do something that makes you happy, and understand that is just step one in the bigger picture. You don't necessarily have to have the big picture right away. Just messy action. Just go for it. Don't wait.
Yeah, same here. And I definitely agree with that because I feel like for me that I I feel like I waited a little bit too long. You know, I
I
mean,
did too.
I don't mean like too long, like, oh my God, I'm so old now, but I mean I'm only 27, but like I feel like had I just started somewhere earlier, right after college, I mean, I knew I've always wanted to do a podcast because I did radio when I was in college. And
Yeah.
when I was doing that, I felt fulfilled. Like for that 1 hour of being on air, I felt like I was, impacting others, and that made me feel inspired. And
Yeah.
so once I graduated, it's like I kind of like lost that. I'm like, okay, now what? And so I knew
Right.
I always want to do my podcast. I'm like, where do I start? I don't know how to start. So I waited almost 5 years to finally start it, which is fine, but I feel like having gotten my foot in the door in the news business, learning skills and developing skills, and that has led me to this. Like, okay, now
Yes.
I have some of these skills, and now going through trial and error, just as a young woman, knowing what works for me and what doesn't, I should just have a podcast about, women inspiring women. And that's how this
Yes.
whole thing came to life.
Yeah.
So I definitely say, don't wait. Like if there's something that you are passionate about, something that you love, just start somewhere,
Yeah.
whether it's a pen or paper, start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is so interesting that we're having this conversation actually, because yesterday I was driving and this popped into my head. I was thinking, what if I would have started all of this, or been this just gung ho about developing myself as a person and growing a business and doing all these things when I was like, yeah, like 24. What if, how different would my life be? But
Yeah.
what I really, really think is if I wouldn't have lived that life that I was living, this would have all never happened, because all of those things led me to realizing the
Mhm.
drastic switch that I needed to make. And because of the major contrast in how I was living to how I am, this is so much more real now. And everything happens when it's supposed to. Like, you're on your own journey. It's not supposed to be like everyone else's. Being on my journey, I mean, I don't think I would have appreciated the situation that I'm in today had I not struggled the way I did. If I would have had success right off the bat, who knows? By 30, I could have been burnt out and been like, okay, like I'm going, then maybe reverted back to that life then.
Yeah.
So every single thing that I did, every mistake that I made, all the situations that I was in that were uncomfortable or weren't great in the moment are the reason that I feel the way I feel today.
Yeah, that right there, that's really important. I mean, I think sometimes we tend to, when I say we, I mean especially millennials, we tend to be so caught up with our peers and where they're at and what they're doing, and we think that because, oh, they're a CEO now, I'm supposed to be a CEO, or
Yep.
because, oh, they are a, anchor on CNN, I'm supposed to be an anchor on CNN.
Yeah.
I only say that, because that's my background in news, but
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but I think we get so caught up in other people's lives that it actually drives us away from our own,
Yep.
and we don't have time to focus. So I mean, there were times where I had to sit down. I think at one point, my husband will tell you too, when I was in counseling, I took a break from social media for a week. The
Hmm.
only time I was on it was when I was at work, because we had to keep up on Twitter what's going on with news.
Right.
But he would tell you, like, for a whole week I stayed off of social media because I really needed that time to heal, if you
Yeah.
will, like, and forgive myself for thinking that I'm supposed to be a certain person or a certain woman because of the girls that I graduated with in college, or the girls I
Yep.
graduated with in high school. I'm supposed to be this certain woman. It's like, no, I'm just supposed to go through my timeline. And I saw a really interesting post on Facebook, or Instagram, whatever, whichever one it was, I can't remember, but it basically said, um, having a kid at 30 is still a good move. Buying
Yeah.
a house at 40 is still a boss move.
Right.
Hiring at 50 or 60 is still a boss move. Don't let people rush your timelines.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
I think that's so important to remember, especially as women too. It's important for us to remember that, because we are all on our own path. We all have a different lifestyle than others.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And it's just, it is so easy, just like you were talking about with social media. Like, we see everyone's highlight reel, like we see everyone's wins, but what we don't highlight are, and this is like so ironic, I feel like there is just some like crazy connection here. I Right before I got on with you, I was writing an Instagram post about how entrepreneurship is just not so beautiful all the time. Some days it sucks, and some days I just cry and I just have a full breakdown, like, what am I doing? Why did I get myself into this? Like, what was I thinking? Why did I think I could compete with all of these other people? And then, you snap out of it, and there's more good than there is bad, but
Yeah.
it's not all puppies and kitties. It's a hard thing, but people don't show you that. They don't show you the days that it sucks. They don't show you when they lose a bunch of money. They only show you, like, look what I did today. And we're all guilty of it. We post our wins and our happy moments, and it's not always necessarily to deceive people. It's just like, that's our human nature, is to put up like a front like that. But for the person reading it on the other side that might not be in the position that you are, like, that can really make or break somebody. And I know personally, I'm still guilty of it. I still compare myself to people, and I have to like check myself, like, that's not your journey. What's meant to happen for you will happen, and it's going to happen in the time it's supposed to happen, whether you push it or think about it or not.
Yeah, yeah. So you also have affiliates with
Yes.
CBD. So how can people get involved if they want to become an affiliate?
Yeah, great question. So I started this affiliate program during COVID because I had just come out of a really awesome mastermind, and I was just so inspired, and I'm like, what can I do? And then like 2 days later, they're like, okay, full lockdown. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that takes away all of my wholesale accounts. That takes away all of my distribution accounts. So I need to focus really, really like strongly just on my e-commerce. How can I grow that without being out in the streets, handing out business cards? And
Yeah.
so, was thinking about affiliates. I had tried it once before and didn't really have a lot of success with it, because I don't think I fully dedicated myself to it the way it needed to be. Um, Once I got a little guidance from some of my peers and some people in my mastermind on how to go about this, I started this affiliate program, and it's been absolutely amazing. I've connected with awesome women all over the country, and it's just built relationships even beyond just being an affiliate. My goal for this affiliate program is not only to have these people come in, get a discount on an amazing product. They get 40% off of everything that they purchase, because I want them to continually be using the product. But I really want these people, men and women, to be able to connect on a level outside of just Sweat CBD. Even I want it to be a place, a community where they can connect and grow, because a lot of them are entrepreneurs themselves or own a small business as well. So I want them to be able to connect and use each other in like a mastermind type sense. So I really have big dreams for this affiliate program. To join, you can go to www.joinsweatcbd.com and fill out an application. Usually takes us about 24 hours to review it. And if you're a good fit, then we will contact you from there. But it's a really awesome opportunity to not only build an additional income, save on your products, but again, just connect with awesome people who are very like-minded and driven.
Miss Kelsey, we have now reached the favorite part of my segment, raise your glass or your water bottle, whichever one. And basically what I do is I just ask a question,
Okay.
or I, start a sentence and we complete it and we kind of discuss it. So you ready?
Yes.
All right. So finish the sentence. The best thing a woman can have is what?
Ambition. Just like we talked about, goals, ambitions, drive. Yes.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I feel like the best thing a woman can have is her mindset on something.
Hmm.
And for me, when my mind is set on something, I do it.
Me too. Yep.
You can't tell me otherwise. Like, nope, I'm doing it because if
Yep.
I don't do it, then I don't know when I'll have an opportunity to do it again. So
Yep.
the best thing a woman can have is ambition and her mindset on something.
Yes.
So with that said, Kelsey, thank you so much for joining me and being.
Thank you.
You were super cool,
Thank you.
super
This is a
amazing.
beautiful conversation.
This was, and I really enjoyed this session with you. This was really cool. This was really reassuring for me. I hope it was reassuring for you. And
Oh, you're killing it, girl. You're killing it. Keep it up.
thank you, thank you. So toast to you, my coffee and your water bottle. Kelsey, thank you so much.